Hey there everybody, welcome back to the channel. This video is going to be a follow-up to my previous video, Terrence Howard and the radiational expansive magnetism. By the way, we will get into this later. But if you're wondering where I got the title for the previous video, the radiational expansive magnetism, he wrote it in his book. It's right here, and it's what I later call the most confusing sentence ever. So look forward to that. I went through this entire proof, the entire chapter of his book. I'm not really sure how many videos it's going to come out to once I edit it all down. We're going to get right back into it, but just to kind of review the system that I'm using here, I'm highlighting stuff in green if I feel like it's correct, or if I agree with it, if it's like a new idea and I feel like it's something I can get behind. I'm highlighting things in pink if I disagree with them or if they're definitely incorrect. And the most common thing with Terrence Howard is he often says things that are not correct or incorrect, they're just confusing. You're really not even sure what he's talking about. So you're going to see a lot of yellow coming up in this video. If you've never seen any of my videos, once again, welcome to the channel. This is a part 2, so I highly encourage you to go watch the first one, or you might be a little bit confused. Just to catch you up, we are peer reviewing Terrence Howard's, one part of Terrence Howard's book, which is proof, apparently proof, that 1 times 1 equals 2. I really started this peer review series last summer, where I was going through the first part of his book. Those videos got a lot of attention, like I got a lot of positive reception on them. So I decided to go ahead and continue this during winter break when I had some time off of work. Occasionally I did get comments from like Terrence Howard sympathizers, but they're kind of few and far between, and I think there was just people that wanted to argue in the comments. My credentials, once again, I do have a mathematics degree, and I've been a math teacher, and I also teach computer science. I'm not a professional YouTuber. I actually am still in the classroom. I'm a professional educator. And I've also been on a textbook adoption committee before, so I have some experience with proofreading and going through textbooks and seeing if the math checks out. I've actually been a curriculum writer before as well. And I think that puts me in a unique position where I'm able to really give a mathematical perspective on Terrence Howard. I mean, everyone knows that 1 times 1 doesn't equal 2. Like that's a very simple thing to debunk. Some people were saying, why do you even do these videos? You don't need to debunk it. Well, if you actually read this book, it's just hilarious. It's one of the funniest things ever written. And as you watch the video, watch me kind of criticize him, please leave a comment and like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. If you enjoy the content, I have an entire playlist from last summer about peer reviewing his book. Terrence Howard is not good at math. He's not very good at English either, which comes across in this book. If you read it, it's, there's a lot of, besides just like spelling and grammar errors, he's just not a very good writer. He kind of writes the way he talks. He must not have very much experience writing or reading. I don't think he's like much of a big reader, but he likes to talk a lot. He gave a speech to Oxford University, Oxford Union actually, a student group that's part of Oxford University. I have a series of videos on that as well. If you want to check out, I got a playlist called Mr. Terrence Howard Goes to Oxford. And a funny story about this entire channel, if you're wondering, a colleague had kind of brought up his Oxford speech. They knew that I teach math, and they were kind of asking me what my opinion on it is. And I think they were really asking about that whole square root loop calculator thing, which is funny enough because I made a video about that, and it's actually the most popular video on my YouTube channel at the time of recording this. Like, a lot of people liked the way I kind of broke that down and showed that it's really nothing more than a parlor trick. He tries to tell us that like our calculators are broken or that someone programmed lies into the calculator. He says some of the weirdest stuff. I don't think there's anyone out there that's really taking 1 times 1 equals 2 seriously. Hopefully not. And by the way, that's the title of his book. His book is like written down in words. It's called 1 times 1 equals 2. The book is freely available online. So the good thing about it, he's not trying to sell it to anybody. He probably knew that like nobody would want to buy it. So like nobody would spend money on this piece of trash. So it's in a PDF format. He has a really weird layout where he puts like 2 pages on one PDF document, almost like it's like a booklet or something. It's not really well put together. It's really sloppy. It's got a lot of pictures. So it's almost like a picture book. So he's not really good at reading and writing. he's not good at the 3 R's, right? The reading, writing, and arithmetic. He's not good at any of those things. All right. Let's go ahead and pick up where we left off. This is the point where the waves of arithmetic and the waves of true and natural multiplication converge. Again, converge means something. Wave means something. He's not using these correctly. There's absolutely no such thing as a wave of arithmetic or a wave of multiplication, much less a wave of true and natural multiplication. And by the way, multiplication is a type of arithmetic or arithmetic operation. He's using arithmetic here, I guess, to mean addition, which actually makes a lot of sense because I think he thinks that all math is just addition. He treats multiplication like it's addition. He doesn't know the difference between them. He confuses them a lot. But yeah, there's no waves. There's no waves to speak of. And what does he have here? He's got 1 plus 1 equals 2, 1 times 1 equals 2. He's labeling them again. Oh my God. So how many names has he given the number 1 now? The number 1, he's called it A. He's called it B. He's called it A prime. It's the same value. It's the same value, but now he's just giving it more names. So A, B. And then up there it was called C. So right now, let me just write this out. He gave the number 1, he gave it 5 different names. This is incredible. He's just wasting letters. What is he doing? It's the most inefficient thing ever. If you agree that it's the same value, that it's the number 1, why are you calling it all these different things? Because the thing is, if the number 1 appeared in like 2 different equations, maybe you could label it as like A, but then in the second equation you would also label it A because it's still the number 1. It's representing the same thing. So again, he doesn't understand the relationship with letters, numbers, and symbols. He just has like a vague idea or understanding that in math sometimes we use letters instead of numbers, but he doesn't know why, and he's using them completely incorrectly here. This is frustrating. This is awful. You see what happens when you follow the clear and expressed rules of the associative and commutative laws? No. I mean, I do, but I don't see it here. You did not use either the associative or the commutative law. You said their name, and then you gave some weird description, which is not the associative and commutative law. Okay. The equation is balanced on both sides of the equal sign. That's also wrong. Like these equations here, I mean this one here, that's not balanced. Subsequently, each number or variable multiplied by 1 would add on to itself. Most of the other functions can remain the same? Wait, most of the other functions? What does that mean? How vague can you be? That is the that might be the funniest thing he's ever said. You know what? Most everything else can remain the same. Most, yeah. I guess like when he's in the mood, operations remain the same, and if it involves the number 1, then he tends to take it in a different direction. But wow, he's claimed this is called a proof. He's calling this a proof. So far he's misquoted 2 properties, associative and commutative. He's started labeling stuff in a really strange way. Just calling the number 1 5 different things for no reason whatsoever. Now he's calling the number 2. Now, okay, and then here's another thing. So he already called the number 1 C previously. Like scroll up a little bit. He says right here, call the third value C, and there's C, that represents the number 1. And then on the next page, not too far down, now he's labeling 2 as C. He's saying C equals 1 and C equals 2. That can't be the case. And now he's got a C prime. I don't know what he's doing here. This is incredible. Some of the other ideas will find themselves unable to remain in a world of truly rational mathematics. Okay, rational. I guess I'm starting a new thing where I X out when he uses real words, real mathematical words like rational, but they mean something in everyday English. Rational would mean, if you're being irrational, you're probably, you're not drawing the right conclusions, or maybe you're saying things, in a crazy way. You're saying, oh, hey, you're being really irrational. That's not what rational and irrational mean in mathematics. Another weird thing he does is he seems to personify or anthropomorphize, however you want to say it, give human-like characteristics to numbers and ideas. Some of the other ideas, will find themselves unable to remain in a world. Like, what does that mean? The ideas are going to find themselves unable to remain. Like the ideas are conscious, like they're human-like. They have a will, like they have free will. And I've noticed he used the word world a lot. I'm not sure. The thing. I'm glad he doesn't say universe, because again, if you think about like set theory, universe actually means something in mathematics. Like you have your universal set. Like previously when I was saying for all A and B in the real numbers, you can call the real numbers like the universal set of that problem. And then you can have subsets of the real numbers. In fact, one of the subsets is the naturals, so you can say like for all A and B in the natural numbers, or the integers. The integers is another set, which we sometimes use as the universe, as the universal set. We don't say world, and I'm not sure what he means by the world of truly rational mathematics. Again, nonsensical. God, it's like a child wrote this. Therefore, the only logical conclusion for 1 times 1 to ever equal, or to have equal 1, is because someone either forgot, wait a second, someone either forgot to follow the basic rules of multiplication, or they deliberately misled an early civilization. Wow, this is so interesting. He's talking about ancient alien stuff, or emerald tablets, or I don't know who he's been talking to, but no, like no one came down from the heavens or from the stars and misled an early civilization by, not getting multiplication right. We were the ones that came up with multiplication. Like, let's get this straight. Humans, I don't want to say invented math. I don't want to say invented math or discovered math. I could say described. Humans first described mathematics. Like, we came up with a system in order to describe the world around us. That's what mathematics is. Like, these symbols and things, plus, times, they weren't handed down like on top of Mount Sinai with Moses, with lightning striking tablets. Like, that's not what happened here. Maybe that's it. Because he talks religiously a lot. He talks about like a lot of religious. There's a lot of like weird religious connotations in this book, or he speaks in ways that sound kind of like biblical, or I don't know. I don't even know what religion he is. I think he started his own religion. It's called the Church of Truth, Love, and Consciousness. Sounds a lot like a cult. But I don't think he has any followers of this religion. I mean, there's some people that, even in my comment section, that defend Terrence Howard from time to time, but I'm not sure that I'm not sure that they're members of his church. Anyway, let's read on. Otherwise, there's no way to make mathematical sense of or solve for the impossible hypothesis of 1 times 1 equals 1. Okay, I was going to put confusing, but let's just say wrong. Let's call a spade a spade. When you're wrong, you're wrong. So where does he think that came from? 1 times 1 equals 1. I don't get it. He learned it in school, obviously. Well, he didn't. He fought against it. He was talking about fighting with his chemistry professor in college. I'm pretty sure he was battling it out with his first grade math teacher. Let me put a little label here. This is like some weird, what do they call it? Ancient wisdom, ancient knowledge, like ancient alien, I don't know, like just some weird ancient wisdom shit. This is a classic example of a mathematical fallacy, which he has a link to. Maybe we'll check that out. I mentioned how this is an interactive book. When you put it together, you can click on certain icons. I'm not sure what this icon even is. It looks like one of his weird shapes. But anyway, he quotes it right here. I'm not sure where it's probably from Wikipedia. In mathematics, certain kinds of mistaken proof are often exhibited. How ironic is this? It's crazy how he has no self-awareness. He's describing himself when he's talking about mistaken proofs and mathematical fallacies. That's really what he's doing. But he's accusing everybody else, every single other human being besides him, he's accusing of doing math incorrectly. Let's start over the italicized part. In mathematics, certain kinds of mistaken proof are often exhibited and sometimes collected as illustrations of a concept of mathematical fallacy. There's a distinction between a simple mistake and a mathematical fallacy in a proof. That's true. Oh, this is a quote, though. He's quoting the italics part. He's quoting from somewhere. A mistake in a proof leads to an invalid proof just in the same way, but in the best-known examples of mathematical fallacies, there is some concealment in the presentation of the proof. Concealment, and that's what he's trying to get at, I think, is that. So now he's drifted onto weird conspiracy shit, which he loves. He loves conspiracies because he seems to think that, I don't know, he just falls into that category of person that it falls for conspiracy stuff, and if he doesn't understand something, he tends to think that it's being concealed or that it's a conspiracy. Okay. I hereby call, and pardon my French, BS on 1 times 1 equaling 1. Oh, God. So he says, pardon my French, and then he didn't even write bullshit. He put BS. He could have said, I call bullshit. Why would he even bother? So why would anyone bother writing pardon my French in a book? He uses these colloquialisms. He uses phrases that you would say possibly in everyday life, but he writes them in his book, and it's really strange. This is also really weird. This ing that he does. Why would he even put that equaling? If you just wrote the equal sign, we would know what you meant. It's just further proof that he doesn't read math. He's probably never read a math book in his life. He doesn't know how to properly. He puts things in he puts things in parentheses a lot for just arbitrarily. Look, there's an S here in the parentheses. Sometimes he puts numbers in either parentheses or square brackets for some reason. On that note, I must immediately declare that 1 times 1 equaling 1 is a false statement, and likewise, based upon the current practices in the field of mathematics, 1 times any number would equal an unfinished equation because both sides of the equation could never be equal as long as, guys, it's like a run-on sentence, as long as 1 times 1 equals 1. Wow, there's not enough red ink in the world for this proof. Luckily, I'm not using ink, I'm using a virtual tablet. Based upon the cited examples, if one, his cited example, well, if 1 times 1 equals 1, then A times B equals A, or just B. What? Okay, let's mark this as confusing, because I don't know what he's talking about. I don't know what he means by that. Again, he's using letters, which, if you go back up, you couldn't even tell. A and B, like, what are A and B even? I guess they're 1. He called the number 1 A, he called it B, he also called it C, and A prime and B prime. So he's going backwards. Okay, I get what he's doing. He's going backwards. And there's kind of a joke in the mathematical community called proof by example. Right? Anyone out there that's maybe a math major or has a math degree or has studied like college level mathematics and proof theory and stuff has probably heard of this. It's a joke. Proof by example doesn't exist. You can't prove something that's general like this, for all A and B, by citing an example, one time where that is actually the case. You can't go from specific to general. You can go from general to specific. So, like, again, he even says, oh wow, I made a little error. He even says, by using these examples, we can prove this general statement. That's a mathematical fallacy. He was just talking about fallacies. He is now engaging in fallacies. That's what he's doing. Also, all of these impossible unrealities and flagrant inequalities must likewise be rewritten as truthful and reliable statements. A times A equals A. What is this? What's happening now? A times A equals A. B times B equals B. C times C equals C. What the hell is going on here? What does this mean? A times A equals... So again, do you see how the pattern's the same? Like A times A equals A, B times B equals B, C times C equals C. I could say, popcorn stand times popcorn stand equals popcorn stand. It's just the pattern that we need to get down. Like, he didn't need these because he's already expressed that pattern once. Why didn't he write D times D equals D? Why stop at C? What's he doing? Why is he doing this? After thoughtful reflection, oh my god. It's so funny when he talks himself up. He says here, after thoughtful reflection and literally thousands of hours of observation, coupled with 5 decades, so 50 years, which is about how old he is, ballpark. For 50 years, since he was born, he's been doing a lot of deep and contemplative work, y'all. Trust me. Along with diligent studying, oh my god. Diligent studying upon the subject. All my research has brought me to the inevitable conclusion that this false concept must have been the brainchild of a godlike figure of some sort. Wow. A figure whose very fingerprints left the identity element / property for mankind to forever stumble himself upon. I don't think anyone else is stumbling over it except for you, Terrence Howard. Someone with whom the people possibly credited for giving them their multiplication table and their geometry. Wow. I've never read a math book that's like, okay, here's a definition. And why do we know this definition? Because God. I've never read a math textbook or a science book that was like, Oh yeah, let's assume that this is true, because my great-great-great-great-grandfather and ancestors were visited by a being who brought down with them the tablet of multiplication table and geometry. No, these were developed by humans. We saw patterns. We came up with things to describe those patterns. That's mathematics. Let's write a note over here. Humans came up with mathematics and all these rules and laws that he's citing that he thinks were given to us by God or aliens or something, to describe patterns. We observe. That's a good sentence. That's the best sentence on this page. Humans came up with mathematics to describe patterns that we observe. It was not a godlike figure. The identity property is the fact that when you multiply by 1, it leaves something unchanged. It's just a way of rewriting something because you're just counting it one time. If you go back in the history of mathematics, or if you think about how we develop mathematics in our own brain as we learn it, it usually starts with counting, which he's not good at. He's not good with counting. He's demonstrated that a lot. So it starts with counting, and then we get into addition, then we get into other mathematical operations. Then we start to describe, again, patterns, which we normally will use like functions. We get into more of a post-secondary level, then you're working more with functions. And at the end of the day, it's just a way that we describe patterns that we observe in nature. There's absolutely nothing wrong with our multiplication table, and we came up with it as a species. This whole idea of the fact that some outside force came and gave us math is it's so wild. It's such a wild idea. And he believes this. Someone with whom they possibly credited for giving them their multiplication table and their geometry, a gift that for a time would set that civilization apart from the rest of the world. So setting humans apart from animals and plants? Okay. All right, let's see. I want to give him a little bit of green. I want to agree with something here. I feel like mathematics is one of the things that does separate humans and the way that we think and the way that our culture works and the way that we function, set us apart from the rest of the animal kingdom, and other living things. But civilization, though, that's a strange word, because civilization, I've never heard of anyone describe animals as having a civilization or being civilized. That's usually something that's reserved for humans. And in history, yeah, we could talk about like when were cities first civilized, or when did we first start civilizing stuff. Civil, this is all human characteristic. A multiplication table and system of calculating that would enable that civilization to rule the then known world from the time of the late Egyptian dynasty until the Medes and the Persians brought a sudden end to their way of life. Who is he talking about? Like Mesopotamia? I'm not an expert on ancient civilizations. There are many people out there who are, like historians and people who actually study this stuff. He just tries to do everything with this book. He puts in like history of the world. It's like history of the world part 1. And then he talks about ancient civilizations and math. He's putting religion in here. It's just, I don't know what he's trying to do with this book. He wants to make it like the new Bible. This is probably like the Bible for his religion. Okay, whomever. And, so far in this video, I've been ignoring things like grammar and spelling and punctuation mistakes. So I'm not sure if whomever is the right term here. Maybe it is. But I've been ignoring that for the most part because I really want to dig into what the content of his narrative is here. Which again, like, you know, if I was grading a paper from a student and they were describing mathematics, if they spelled some words wrong, I wouldn't count it against them. So, whomever it was that gave that naive generation some 6,000 years ago, or possibly even longer. So I don't know where he's getting this from. 6,000 years, as far as I know, 6,000 years goes, that's like the cusp of written human history. You know, if you think about it, you're going back to like 4,000 BC. I don't think that we have much record of what was going on there. You could think about some of the early Bible stuff was probably maybe written back then. Egyptian hieroglyphs, ancient Sumerian, Mesopotamian cultures. That's the 6,000 years ago. I love how, just like earlier, he was like, and most other things can remain the same. Well, yeah, or possibly even longer. For a book that's trying to cover like history and math and science and religion all in one, he's not being very specific with anything. Possibly even longer. A multiplication table based on 1 times 1 equals 1 and a flat view of universal geometry. Okay, hold up. That's a made up phrase. Universal geometry. Gave those poor misguided people a false axiom upon which to build our now crumbling world. Okay. Let's give him a little green here because, yeah, I think we all agree the world is crumbling. I mean, there's different ways to say that, but it's definitely not because we have the wrong multiplication table. That's not why our infrastructure is at risk. I pointed out in a previous video that you can't say false axiom because axioms are something in logic and something in mathematics that we assume to be true. That's what an axiom is. It's self-evident, and it's basically the starting point of a mathematical theory or scientific theory or axioms. So there's no such thing as a false axiom. That doesn't make any sense. A false axiom that would behave as a bumper for our infantile species, a tutor, as it were. Ugh. I can literally hear it in his voice. It's ugh. A false axiom that would allow for a measure of growth and productivity for a time, but would inevitably lead to a catastrophic failure and its ultimate collapse at the arrival of the truth. Here's another way he's given himself away that he's like trying to be a cult leader or start his own religion is he keeps talking about the truth. Let's put like quotation marks. Quote unquote the truth. There's a lot of religions out there that they say, hey, this is the truth. This is the truth. Everything else is false. Everything you've learned is false, but this is true. Alrighty. For the sake of time, let's go ahead and continue this in the next part. If you like the video, please give a like and share it out. The main reason I ask is the more likes it has and the more subscribers I have, then this gets higher in the algorithm and then more people watch it. And as far as they've told me, they enjoy it. I get a lot of good positive comments. And I do want to also make a note that this video is not bullying in any way. It's not meant to be a criticism of Terrence Howard's character. It is just meant to be a criticism of his ideas and his writing. And that's perfectly fine. That's allowed on YouTube. Cool. Please like and subscribe. And we'll see you in the next part.